Welcome, everybody out there listening on KFWB News Talk 980, our flagship station in Los Angeles, or Extreme Talk XM Channel 165, or at the World Wide Web at KLEANRadio.com. I'd like to welcome everybody out there that just tuned in. We have an amazing show tonight. This is a show about addiction and recovery and life after, and we have an amazing guest tonight who is his career is pretty much a symbol of all the good fruits that come with sober labor and hard labor of life.
And sobriety.
Yeah, and my co-hostesses with the mostesses in for Andrew tonight is Erica Abfab Spiegelman.
Hi.
How you doing?
I missed you.
Yes.
I missed being here on the show.
Yeah, you missed you were in Hawaii.
You guys had some good shows though. I watched them. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question. So you were in Hawaii. You're sober.
Yes.
And I want to ask you a question because I think a lot of people out there that are listening. You know, I mean, I got to be honest. I think this thing sometimes, too. It's like, what do you do? You know, when you're sober and you're in Hawaii, you know, people, I think a lot of times people have this thought, oh, it's, you know, you're going to go.
Mai Tais on the beach.
Mai Tais on the beach. But what did you do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's also another side of being in Hawaii or being on vacation where you could be healthy. And I took runs in the morning. We hiked, spent good quality time with the people I was with, read, listened to music. You know, there's a lot you can do and be healthy instead of, you know, drinking Mai Tais all week long and not remembering my trips. That's what
I couldn't agree with you more, but I know that people out there, the idea of...
There's a lot of anxiety with my clients, especially when they go on vacations, you know, they get sober and then they want to go away with their wife or with their friends. What are they going to do?
Right.
Because they're used to just pretty much drinking and basing that, you know, around dinners and things that involve alcohol. And, you know, it's difficult, but you kind of have to have a little bit of a plan and say to yourself that you're going to get like on a health kick and use that vacation to kind of just, you know, have a good time and be healthy.
So one of the things you just said, we just finished up New Year's. A lot of people out there have these resolutions, these these resolutions that most people have probably failed them by now. I'm not judging. I'm just thinking a lot of people have. If you go to Runyon Canyon, I said this last week, day one after, which is a canyon in Los Angeles where people hike.
Of course.
You know, but people in Alabama that are listening might not. So I was trying to tell them. So they might not know this. So, you know, and day one, Runyon Canyon is packed. Day two, if you go to Subway after the week after New Year's, it's packed because everybody's getting the vegetarian subs, and by the next week it's back to meatballs.
Well, we'll see. I went hiking yesterday, and it was packed. And I think people are, and I was at the gym. People are really trying, I think, to get, especially this year. I mean, there's so much to do now with like technology and how to get fit and all these applications, and you could track your steps and you could track how many miles you go. I mean, there's a lot of ways that people are trying to better themselves.
Right, but the only problem with that is when you track your steps, you actually have to be walking.
Yeah.
And
in and out of the car. People literally do that.
Right, people are counting their steps. How many did I go up and down? And but also something before we introduce our guest, we have an amazing show tonight. Really, one of my heroes, just an amazing person. And before we get into that, if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEAN Radio. There's something I really this topic I want to talk about. A lot of people are tuning in for the first time. We're a show about addiction and recovery, but one of the things I have to say is I was reading the paper today. I've been following this story, and there's an NBA basketball player with a major anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
He plays for the Houston Rockets. He hasn't played all season, and they drafted him knowing this. He can't fly.
Right.
And I was looking at this guy last week, and I follow I read what people write underneath, and I was reading this story, and people were being really critical of him, and I was a little critical too, because I look at him. Because I look at him and he's this beacon of health in a sense, physically on the outside.
Right.
And part of me was saying, suck it up. You know, me that works in the mental health industry at points is saying, suck it up, because I was judging his outsides. I wasn't looking at this person, how he's feeling on the inside.
And you were frustrated with the fact that he's not performing the way that
Right.
he basically promised to.
Or how he looks.
Yeah.
And he, people knew beforehand what the situation was. But the thing is, and I realized this today as he was suspended, I realized hopefully, and his whole point is that the NBA isn't set up to deal with mental health.
Right.
And they're not.
Right.
Because if you look at past NBA players, how much trouble they get into when they leave the NBA, if there's not enough proof that these sports leagues have issues.
Look at the football players that get hit in the head and they start having some kind of like really internal stuff going on and they can't perform the ways that they used to.
Right.
They're gone.
Right.
I mean, that's what happens.
And the stigma, and I have to applaud this guy. I really have to applaud this guy for taking a stand, for saying, it's not easy for a 21-year-old, really well-built person, to say.
He's raising awareness.
Yeah.
And without the help, people take drugs for anxiety, and it seems like he doesn't want to take that path. He kind of, is not going to just take a couple of Xanax and get on a plane. He's really saying that he wants
because that's
awareness.
Not the solution.
Right. He wants everyone to be aware that there is a serious problem and that some people have to deal with this day in and day out.
Right.
OCDs, anxiety.
And to the people out there, this goes to the way we look at people, the way we judge, and the way when we were kids, you look at the drunk as the guy in the homeless guy.
Right.
You don't look at people that are well built or that seem like they have it going on as the people that could be in trouble.
And those are the people that when you look around in a grocery store, you don't know what's going on behind the exterior. And most of the times there is some issues and problems,
I agree.
I mean, the alcoholic these days is not with a paper bag on, in an alleyway. It's
It's us in this room.
Everywhere.
Okay, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio. Give us a call at 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. Like I promised, we have a great show. I want to tell this quick story, and he's not going to kill me. It's one of the funniest things, Erica, that ever happened to me. It has to do with our guest tonight.
Yeah.
About 3 years ago, our guest tonight is Tony Denison, amazing actor of the TV show, just tons of TV shows, but now the TV show is Major Crimes. And a couple of years ago, Tony invites me to this event, and it's for this actress Cameron Manheim. It's for her charity. She's the woman from The Practice, and so I say to him, "How do we dress?" So he goes, "Oh, Jude, it's L.A. It's casual. Don't worry." Now, everybody out there listening, I know Tony's fans have all tuned in tonight. I could have gone to Tony's house, gone into his closet, taken out the best suit. Tony would have said, "You look great. Let's go to the party." But Tony says it's casual, casual jeans. Maybe a T-shirt or a flannel, whatever. So we get to this party. We drive out to Venice, and we're walking, and I see a lot of people with gowns out on to where this address are going. And I go, "Tony, are you sure we're dressed okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't know what that is." So we go. We start, and there are tons of people with gowns on. Everybody, all the men are wearing suits. Even Tony feels uncomfortable. He goes back to his car. He gets his leather jacket. He gives me a spare one. And I'm like, this doesn't cut it. So he walks up to the front. He walks in, and he goes, "I'm a celebrity dealer." And he walks inside. And, because he thought he was dealing poker.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting in, I swear to God, this is like a $10,000 plate event we're at.
Okay.
Everybody's women in their high heels, men looking decked out, and Tony and me in casual. Tony doesn't care really though. Right away, he finds the buffet.
Yeah.
He starts eating right away. That's the one thing he could, no problem
He doesn't
eating.
seem like he cares.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He just starts eating. We're sitting there an hour. Tony goes, I go to Tony. I go, "Tony, I'm 34 years old. I go, when is this insecurity of that I don't fit in going to end?" Okay, because it's not like I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
And so Tony goes, so finally he asks somebody, and he goes, "Hey, is this Cameron Manheim's celebrity poker event?" And they go, "No, it's around the corner."
Oh, my gosh.
And we go, and it was casual, but we were in the wrong place for an hour. And that's
a good one. That's a good
it was just
story.
one of those stories that, So let's welcome to Clean Radio. Let's welcome back Tony Denison.
Welcome.
Good to be back. What was really funny about that is we went up to the women, the sign-in, and I said, "Hi, I'm Tony Denison. I'm one of the celebrity dealers." And she looks at her sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I think she was so shocked that somebody walked in and said, "I'm a celebrity dealer." First of all, in L.A., that can mean a few
It
things.
could mean a
right.
couple things, yeah. That's
And
funny.
and that's when I was sitting with those two people.
Yeah.
That sort of elderly couple.
Yeah.
And I said, "So, you're here to play poker?" And they go, "Excuse us?"
You
And I
didn't
said,
get it.
I said, "Because where are they putting the tables?" And she said, "I don't understand what you're talking about." And I was like,
That's funny.
"Okay, hold on a second."
That's funny.
And if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio. We're in the studio tonight with Tony Denison. I want to welcome everybody out there listening. We're a show about addiction and recovery. Tony is the star of the show, one of the stars of the show, Major Crimes. And one of the things I love about Major Crimes is that you play a sober character on the show.
Mm-hmm.
You've been wearing that ring. Tony actually has a sobriety ring. You know, you have the symbol of the 12 steps.
Yeah, since I was like a year sober, I got it as a gift to myself.
And you've been wearing that on every show.
Well, when, there's sometimes I don't wear it when it seems inappropriate for the character to even be wearing jewelry. And then not every character I play has to be sober. And like when I did when I played the chef in the movie in Trattoria up in San Francisco, I decided, he wasn't going to be a sober guy. So, otherwise it'd be too, I said, you know what, it's not in the story. There's no need to do that. But the police, playing the lieutenant in the police force in L.A. or any city, I mean, there are alcoholics, in the police department and the fire department and certainly the military or whatever. But I just thought, I said to the executive producer, James Duff, I said, it's interesting. I said, you have John Tenney, whose character was married to Kira. He was an FBI agent. I said, you have him as being a sober guy. I said, it just, I said, if you don't mind, I said, I would like my character to be a sober guy as well. Mm-hmm. And he thought about it, We hadn't started filming yet. And he said, okay, let's try it. Let's see where we can go with it. He says, I reserve the right, to change back. He said, if it becomes problematic in terms of plots.
In the storyline,
Yeah, and I said, yeah, okay. So I just kept the ring on. He had no problem with the ring.
Nice ring. Yeah.
To people out there that are listening, Erica just asked to see Tony's ring.
I did.
Yeah, and and then he said, you know what, this really works great. And so they left it in. The only difference is I'm coming up in March on 20 years of sobriety.
Wow.
And my character is coming up on 15 years of sobriety.
And, there was an amazing episode you did where it actually took place at a meeting or outside the meeting that, and it's one of the best fight scenes since Wise Guy probably, since the final scene.
A minute and 3 second long fight, which
where he
is
gets
unusual
attacked.
for television.
He gets attacked at the
really?
end of, and it's to the closer fans out there. It's to anybody out there. It's one of the best episodes. Tony deserved to be nominated. But one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was I was watching a movie the other night. The show actually had an accurate portrayal. You're very accurate when you talk as obviously because you've been there. Mm-hmm. But I watched a few movies. If you watch a few movies, whether it's When a Man Loves a Woman, does Hollywood not? With all the alcoholics in this town, you'd think they would depict,
properly,
12-step meetings a lot better.
Yeah, sometimes they're just looking for a dramatic moment, and if it's problematic in terms of what how we do things in AA, they skirt past it. It's okay. That's just sometimes it's more important that the person be an alcoholic for the story, but not necessarily, being concerned with how they treat themselves, the treatment that they're involved in.
There's a lot of stereotypical meetings on TV shows. And there was a show recently, and they had this guy go into a meeting, and it was kind of like they were all drinking coffee, they were all smoking cigarettes outside. There's kind of this stereotype, which is not
very
necessarily
true. Yes.
Yeah.
In that case, it's very true. I always say if you ever want to start, when they have these AA World events, I always say they should start it off with somebody running down with a lit cigarette and a pot of coffee, like the Olympics.
And their donuts, yeah. But that's how it is portrayed in film and in TV most of the time.
Yeah, the fact that somebody, like the character who is an alcoholic or an addict, is attending a meeting sometimes is all the important thing they want. That's
what they want to get across.
That's what they're going to meetings.
Yeah.
How the structure of the meeting is in terms of how they really are, it's like the best example of this, which has nothing to do with sobriety, is when cops, it's like a lot of times we'll play a scene where we're on a quote-unquote stakeout. So they have us outside the house, we have this dialogue, and the next thing you know, we think, all right, let's go in. And so we go in, and we've been in the car or outside the house for like 5 minutes. Most stakeouts are like, 3-4 hours long.
Right.
While that's real, I don't think I would sit and watch two actors talk about something for 4 hours.
For a day and a half.
Yeah, for a day and a half.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe I might if it was Jack Nicholson and and
Morgan
Freeman
yeah.
or Gene Hackman or Meryl Streep. If the four of them were on a stakeout,
and definitely Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, and definitely Anne Hathaway. I mean, might be really interesting, but it's how do you write 4 hours worth of dialogue for something?
No, you can't.
So you just put it in, you condense it, 5-6 minutes, boom, or even 10 minutes. They jump in, they make the arrest, or come in with their guns drawn. So that's they take license. They take they have to.
By the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio. Give us a call at 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. We're in the studio today with Tony Denison, actor, just an amazing guy, one of my closest friends. We're family. But one of the coolest things that I've learned from Tony, I mean, so many of my life lessons I've learned from Tony Denison. And but one of the coolest things I've ever seen was, everybody sees you on TV. They've seen you on TV for years. But you're also sober for years. And one of the things they don't realize, some of your fans out there, you've had turbulent times through those times.
Wow.
And you walk through them like a man.
Well, thanks.
As a person that was responsible. This is years ago. Tony had it was when I first moved out here. Tony probably had one of the roughest years in anybody.
6.5 years.
Yeah, of anybody could go through.
6.5 tough years.
It was the final thing. You're selling your house. You're going through, issues in your relationship, and he has to fix this fence in the back of the porch. I'm a kid from Brooklyn, okay? I'm not a carpenter, okay? And we're in the back of his house as he's selling it, fixing this fence. And I remember I looked at him and I realized it was perfect the way we built this fence. The whole thing was he was willing to build this perfect fence, even though he knew he was selling his house. And I remember I looked at him at that point and I said, I know so many people. You see the way people leave foreclosed houses or houses they're selling. They leave them a mess. But this man wanted to put an immaculate fence in the back of his house.
His character.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the coolest people out there. That's Tony Denison.
Yeah.
That's the person to me that built the fence in the back of his house. I feel like I'm about to make you cry, Erica.
No.
But, so I want your fans to know that because they are listening tonight. And so I want to talk a little bit about the rough spots you've gone through, how you stayed sober through them.
Yeah.
Well, the rough spots, I mean, it just happened upon me. I got sober. Well,
what were the life circumstances around them? I mean, like death or what?
No. I first got sober on drugs in 84. But didn't want to make the admission I was an alcoholic. So I stopped doing drugs, but the only reason I was able to stop because I was still drinking. Then in 93, I hit my bottom. And but things at the time were going fine. I'd stopped drinking. But, I mean, I still had, money in the bank. I had a career. I was, I was working. I was, working at my chosen craft. And things were okay. But as I was, uncovering stuff through the sobriety, through the 12 steps, and as I was going through that, I was just learning stuff about myself, and there was just all kinds of things that seemed to be coming up that I realized needed to be addressed. But then, coincidentally, what happened was suddenly work started to slow down, and it wasn't because I wasn't doing my job properly or emoting the way I used to. It was just, for some reason, it just started to slow. And I couldn't make sense of it. I said, what's going on? I said, hey, I'm a good guy. I would say these prayers to who or what my higher power is. And, I would say, I don't understand, it's like the line in The Godfather, Fredo goes, I'm smart. What are you talking about? Why isn't this happening to me? And I realized at that point, this was about 3.5 years into this, this awakening, that I was making my higher power Santa Claus. Because it was basically, well, I've been a good guy. I sponsor people. I go to meetings. I answer phones at central office. How could this be happening to me? I'm a good guy now. I'm not that same, nefarious, knuckleheaded character who ran illegal gambling clubs in New York and did tons of drugs and drank at all the inappropriate times. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And then little by little, it started to occur to me that the more and more people I sponsored and the more and more I went to meetings, I just doubled up my going to meetings. I started to see people who were far worse off than I was, let's say. I hate to use that word, worse off, but experiencing much greater challenges.
Struggling more.
Struggling, thank you.
Yeah.
And they were managing to stay sober throughout it. And then I said, you know what? I said, I said, I'm not, you know. And then I realized that my life was not about who I am, about what I am. It's more about who I am. And who I am is somebody who's really concerned about being of service to people, you know, extending a helping hand, and to do it as unconditionally as I possibly can. And at that point, I said, okay, God, whatever you have in store for me, I said, if I have to change professions, so be it. Yeah. All I want is to be happy while I'm figuring out what I'm going to do with my life.
Do you think you used to look at yourself as an actor first and Tony second?
Oh, I was an actor.
That's what we were talking about with our friend Zach the boxer.
It was always like
the ego.
Yeah. Oh, so what do you do? Oh, I'm an actor. Oh, I'm an actor. Oh, and then I would talk about, I'm on the show Crime Story, which has a cult following.
It defined you.
And then it got to the point where I started not saying that.
So do you think the switch had to happen that you became Tony first, then and who happens to act?
Yeah, it became who happens to act and loves acting.
Right.
I mean, I love it, and the more passion that I have towards my craft is a direct result of how much more, passion I take towards doing the steps. I always say to people, and I still do, that the quality of your life is directly proportional to what step you're on.
By the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio. We're in the studio tonight with Tony Denison, star of the show Crime Story, and Major Crimes. Funny that they have the same. And give us a call at 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. If you have something to add to the conversation or want to say hello to Tony, give us a call. One more time, that's 888-539-2980. To all your fans out there that are listening, I did promise them 5 autographed T-shirts.
Sure.
So Clean Radio T-shirts.
We have them.
Yeah, we definitely have them. Not, we're out to get different ones.
But the thing that was, I wanted to close this up about about not working for all that time, or having my work slow down considerably, is that after I came to that realization about being more concerned about who I am, it still took about another 2 years. So it wasn't like I had the epiphany and then suddenly everything turned around. It didn't turn around. It's sort of, it's sort of happening, and then finally things started to turn around at a point where it was really appreciative and grateful, but I was already somewhat happy.
But do you think that's
the growth, though.
You talked about something, right, and you talked about something extremely important. People, when they get sober, there's this myth that everything is going to get better right away. And that's that the job's going to come back, the marriage might be better, everything. And they don't realize that it doesn't get better right away.
I think it's about going on a journey. What is it Emerson said?
Emerson, Lake and Palmer?
No.
Yeah, Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Yeah, who said, something about, I'm paraphrasing, but, at the end of all of our seeking, and, we will wind up at the place that we started from, and we will know it for the first time. And I think that's kind of what it's about.
But it's also about being humble and not feeling like you deserve everything just because now you've given up something else. Doesn't mean you deserve
Which
to
is
get
what
everything.
he was talking about. And I think, I don't know, I know you're not the only one that does it, but that's a constant theme with people when they get sober.
I hear it all the time.
They make this list, of like, if I sponsor enough guys, this is what's going to happen.
Well, one of the funniest things of all during, especially during that last 2 years, people would come up to me and they'd say, hey, could you sponsor me? And, other actors who were experiencing a tough time. And I'd say, yeah, sure. And they would say, man, the way you're carrying, I mean, we know you're not. And I would be like, yeah, okay, fine, I'm doing that. And so one particular guy, he says to me, he goes, so tell me, what are you taking? And I said, what do you mean, what am I taking? He goes, you're taking some kind of drug. And I said, no, I'm not. He goes, wait a minute. How can you be this, calm or this level-headed or this steady? And I said, because it's, what I told you. I said, it's more important about who I am than what I am. And the what I am, which I love doing, is not as important as me loving who I am first. Because how could I love something, so totally if I don't love myself, or at least in process of loving myself?
Exactly.
And he goes, no, you're definitely doing something. I mean, you got to be doing something. And I said, no. And then he stopped working with me because he thought I was lying to him.
You're going to give him the magic pill and tell him
the magic pill.
That's
there is
what
no
happens.
magic pill.
But that's what they want, is the magic pill, usually.
What's really amazing is because you are at a public level. I mean, and if Patrick had sent me this email. Patrick, our just the best video guy in town, Patrick, and he had sent me this YouTube video
He's agreeing with you.
that you were on on the
That's
show
not
in the
great.
past, and we didn't see it, but somebody had emailed us, and they had seen your interview of you being sober, and this was like a year after you had been on the show, and it had such a profound impact. Did you make that conscious decision to break that breaking your anonymity could help more people?
Well, as long as I don't say I'm in a particular organization, as I understand it, that's the prerequisite. Anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films as it relates to the organization that I say I'm a member of. As far as being in recovery, I find it's a challenge. I mean, I still think about it, but at the same time, if I can be of help to somebody, I always tell people on the set, you can tell anybody you want that I'm in the program. Doesn't matter, because if there's somebody on the set who wants to talk to me about something, if I can be a facilitator to them getting in a room somewhere, fine.
Well, can I ask you a question? So what if like, I'm just playing devil's advocate, what if somebody, let's say, wants to get sober a different way than going into the rooms? I mean, are you comfortable with helping people
I've done
that way too?
I've done that.
I'm just saying, because I have so many clients that sometimes there's not one recipe for everybody. So some organizations don't always work for every single person. And in some cases, there's other ways. And someone like you that has so much knowledge and sobriety under their belt, could still help other people in that way.
I mean, this is the way for me. This is what's worked in my life.
Right.
However, I've learned so many ancillary things as a result. I mean, through my own reading and, I mean, I can have as much fun sitting down talking about the philosophies of Shakespeare as a method for how to live life.
Right.
There is no such thing as good or bad. It's just thinking that makes it so.
Right.
Stuff like that. And the other person that I use a lot of times as an example is Joseph Campbell. And about the journey of the hero.
We're heading to break, by the way. If you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio. We're in the studio tonight with Tony Denison. Give us a call at 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. One of the things I want to talk about when we come back is something you just spoke about, is taking words out of the vocabulary. That helped me a lot. Changing words from bad, taking the words bad out, taking the words
negative out,
changing these words, the way we look at things.
Disorder, your
belief system.
The biggest one is have to and want to.
Have to and want to. I love that.
I like it.
We're in the studio tonight with Tony Denison. Give us a call one more time at 888-539-2980. My co-hostesses with the mostesses just returned from Hawaii, the great Erica Spiegelman. She wants to talk to you. Discussion continues at cleanradio.com.
Are you struggling with an addiction that's ruining your life? Want to have a confidential conversation with a professional that will immediately assist you? Do you suspect a loved one is abusing drugs and would like a free drug testing kit and consultation? KLEAN Treatment Center is standing by right now to help those with addictions and the people who care about them. Call 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. Or go to KLEAN Treatment Center, that's clean with a K, cleantreatmentcenter.com.
Welcome back to Clean Radio. I just found out if Tony's tongue felt like a dead animal.
No, I said the coffee is laying on my tongue like roadkill.
Yeah, you look great tonight, by the way. You have many scarves. You have.
I love scarves.
I love it. Every couple
scarf.
of years, Tony actually gets into this phase, and what's great is I get the secondhand stuff of the phases he went through, but I don't think I want the secondhand scarf phase. So
I'll take it.
Yeah, Erica will
I'll
take
like
it.
it,
I'm
yeah.
loving. I plan on getting the cowboy shirts now, but the amazing cowboy flannels.
Okay, good to know.
Well, they were. What's his name? I can't remember the. I won't promote them because they didn't give me the clothes.
You have dibs on the flannel.
So you wanted to make a correction. It wasn't.
It wasn't Emerson. It was T.S. Eliot.
It wasn't Emerson, Lakes and Palmer.
No, it wasn't Emerson, Lakes and Palmer. But I realized when I said it, I said, "Is it Emerson? Is it Walden?" I mean, because I love. We were talking just a minute ago during the break. I love Emerson.
Me too. He's my favorite.
I'm gonna. You know what?
Seriously.
By us, I'm gonna say he's my favorite too. I have no idea who this. Yeah, I'm joking. I know.
Ralph Waldo
Yes, I know who
Emerson.
Ralph Waldo
Waldo.
Emerson is. Okay. Emerson. By the way, give us a call at 888-539-2980. Welcome back to Clean Radio. We're in the studio tonight with Tony Denison, star of the hit TV show. The biggest TNT shows ever.
I'm gonna start
biggest
watching
cable
now.
shows
Yeah,
ever.
The Closer and now Major Crimes. The biggest record-breaking cable,
That's
scripted
amazing.
drama.
Yeah.
And now certainly for TNT, but now, I mean, there are other non-scripted shows like
Pawn Stars.
Yeah, that, and I forget the other one.
The reality shows.
Yeah.
A lot of the reality shows, drawing a bigger crowd. But for scripted, I mean, we're rocking and hopping and rocking, or hopping and bopping, or whatever it is.
So
Rockin'
before
and
the
rollin'.
break, we were talking about the rough times you went through, even in sobriety, before you got the closer, before you got Major Crimes. Do you think that helped you a lot with the success you're having now?
Yeah, I think it's certainly made me incredibly grateful, more grateful than I thought I was. You talked about humility before, and I think a lot of it was like a false sense of humility. It's like, oh yeah, it's nice, you do great work or something. I say, oh well, thanks, and I was never happy.
Yeah.
Because, pardon me, because I wanted more. I wanted more. I wasn't even savoring the moment.
Well, your work can't define you either.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It was that's what was going on.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, when this all came to the epiphany, like what is it Gene Hackman says in Postcards from the Edge? Well, you have the epiphany, and then later on, things change. In the movies, they have the epiphany and everything changes like immediately, but in real life, you have the epiphany and then things change down the road.
It's one of Tony's favorite movies
It's
of
a
all
great
time.
movie.
He almost
I used
every
to love
time,
that movie.
anytime somebody new comes into the house, he makes him sit for 2 hours and watch the movie.
Especially when I'm dealing with
Yeah.
a newcomer.
Yeah.
I have them watch that movie. But, that's kind of... I mean, I don't know. I remember there was one time what I was afraid of as an actor was I said, if I continue to, quote unquote, mellow out, that I'm not going to be able to, play these intense,
That's a
dark
good point.
characters.
Yeah.
And I was like really worried about that. But I thought, you know what? I'd much rather be sober. I said, my life, I was miserable, and I had a good life.
But you've had that with a lot of things, though.
And
You've
then-
had that thought with therapy, with
Right.
Creative people, though, struggle
Right.
with that a lot. Oftentimes when people are really, naturally creative and they feel like they're usually getting something from outside.
the
something
nuttiness.
something outside themselves, really.
I mean, I don't know how powerful what I'm doing as an actor is coming across, but for me, I find that I can summon up these dark places and this energy, so quickly, and then release it so quickly too. It used to be that I would start getting ready for work, like in the morning when I'd shave, I'd put on, let's say, the Rolling Stones, and I would listen to, Let It Bleed album, and I would like Street Fighting Man and all that, and I would get into this, and by the time I got to the set, I was exhausted because I had been constantly, building. And now I find that I could be sitting there on a chair and they go, okay, let's go. And I go back on the set. And as soon as they say action, it's like, whew,
Right.
this,
But you could go to the dark places because you've been there before, and then and then you could emerge back to the light, back to your normal.
Yeah.
Do you think that happens, though, often? Like, after you did Crime Story, just so people know that we're in the studio with Tony Denison, he played, Time Magazine actually voted Tony and Larry Hagman as the two worst villains of the 1980s.
Two best villains.
Two best villains. Well, you were the worst villains, right? With what you did, I mean, Tony, you literally, you didn't get. I mean, how many actors do you think this actually happens to, that they leave the role they're doing? The old legend with Keith Carradine, who had played Kung Fu.
Oh, David Carradine.
David, like, he almost took on the role of the guy from Kung Fu, where he would wander across America doing drugs. Obviously, you didn't become Ray Luca after you did Crime Story.
No, thank God.
But did part of you, as you were doing that show, how do you separate? I know you were, you weren't a monster, but
it's hard. I mean, I remember one time I was in Vegas.
Because you shot the show in Vegas, right?
I remember one time in Vegas, I just came from the set. And it was a particularly emotional scene and very active. And I was driving back and I got pulled over by these cops. And I got out of the car and I was like, "What's the problem, man?" And then I went, "Oh my God!" I said, "Oh geez, I'm so sorry."
Right.
For a minute, I was
right.
the
You
character.
think you're Ray Luca?
Yeah.
And then I looked and
So
said, "Oh my
interesting.
God!" I said, "I'm so sorry." And they recognized me, and they were like, "Oh man, you can take some pictures with us."
Right.
Back then cell phones weren't, so they had a little camera that
Polaroids.
Yeah.
What's it was more than it was before that. You had the
It was the disposables.
No, I was gonna even go. I was gonna joke, but
the land camera,
the lithograph,
or
or
the
It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, no, I know it wasn't that long.
the reverse image cameras.
Okay, so here we are. So we're sober. You get sober 20 years ago almost. part of the. I love this story of why you got sober. You're at a gambling club. This is before. Tony manages these gambling clubs.
I own this one.
You own this, right? And somebody said, he's always saying to people, I'm an actor. And this is to people out there that are listening, that are struggling, that are using, that are, to him, he's still an actor. He hasn't acted in 3 years.
Right.
And somebody said something to you.
Sylvia Fay, who's a casting director. I don't even know if Sylvia's alive. She's a wonderful person, and she used to play in my game. And she said to me one time, what do you do besides this? And I said, well, I'm an actor. She goes, really? She goes, no, you're not. And I said, what do you mean, no, I'm not? She goes, because you're making too much money doing this, and to go out on an audition where you might make, back then, a day player was getting like, I think, $350 a day. And she goes, you're making more than that a day, so why would you want to go out and audition for something where you're only going to make $350? And I'm like, no, I mean, and I realized she was right. Not too long after that, I finally, hit my bottom. But I was just an actor in word only. I was like, what do you do? Oh, I'm an actor. I hadn't been on an audition in almost 2.5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, literally not even, nothing. By choice, because I was completely screwed up.
Was it fear, too? Was there fear involved?
I think I was too screwed up to know
whether you were scared or not.
Yeah, I just knew that I was, I just wanted to be numb, which was the history of my, drug and drinking. Was just, I want to numb out. I don't want to feel my feelings.
So to people out there, I think there's a constant theme with drug addicts and alcoholics is, a therapist that we both know always says, he always talks about you're not playing your ace in the hole. You're not, a lot of alcoholics, a lot of addicts, they don't play that ace. They hold on to that thing they really want to do, that thing they're great at out of fear.
Because they feel like maybe they're not deserving of it.
Right.
They're not deserving of happiness.
Or if I go for that and I fail, then who am I?
Right.
How did you go through? I mean, really, it's pretty amazing. How do you go through auditions? How do you go through sober? How do you walk into a room and you're basically naked and you're saying to somebody, judge me?
You have to have thick skin, don't you? I mean, it's...
Well,
but actors aren't known for thick skin. That's the...
You have to have it, though.
No, I mean, to the best of my ability, I do what I can to walk into the room, using what I've learned, again, this is about practicing these principles in all your affairs. So when I walk into the room, perhaps my job is just to serve the material. And I took that another step further, which is that I look at the whole audition process as a 2-act play. Act 1, hey, you got the audition, or a 3-act play if you want. Hey, you got the audition. Oh, great, I'm going to send you the material. Oh, fantastic, so cool, I'm going to read. Oh, great. Act 2, you start studying your lines and, you do your thing. Act 3 is you go in and you do your audition, and the play's over.
Right.
It's not a question of whether you get the thing, because the job is the audition.
Right.
That's what you're being paid as a professional actor to come in and do these auditions. And you go in, and that's all you need to do, is to do the best you can, serving the material and saying to yourself, as far as a 3-act play is concerned, I did Act 1 fine, I did Act 2 fine, here's Act 3, it's over. If you get the part, then it's another 3-act play.
Right.
You get the call, you get the part. Act 2, you study the lines again. Act 3, you show up in the set. Where the movie goes after that, that's a whole nother play.
By the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio. You're also listening to Tony Denison from Major Crimes Talk. And the reason I bring that up is very important. Erica, you deal with this all the time. Yeah. We deal with this in the rehab world constantly. We see these beautiful people with these beautiful minds that are getting sober, scared to death. They get sober, they're in rehab a couple days, they get the family pressure going on, and they're so scared. They're terrified. And one of the things we're hearing from Tony is about getting through that terror. But what is it? Where does that? What does that stem from?
The terror of actually having nothing to numb yourself with.
Yeah, and actually being able to live without the numbness.
Yeah.
You're talking about it. We're talking about it because it's hard. But 20 years ago, as you got sober, and we're talking about it couldn't have been that easy. I mean, that's when it must have been.
Oh, I mean, I was afraid. I mean, I'm still, excuse me, I still have, some level of fear but not as much as I used to,
Yeah.
because it's based on the desire that I must get the role instead of I must do a good job for the audition.
Right.
When I can center myself, then I leave the experience saying, did I do the best audition I can do for servicing the material and servicing my craft? Yes. Fine.
And then you let it go. And then that's another thing, there's two parts to this conversation.
Right.
He's talking about how, just like you said, when you audition and you kind of have to just let the cards fall where they may, and you have to learn how to let go in some circumstances, especially being an actor, right? And then when you were talking about, when people have the fear, the fear also comes from the environment that you're around also. Like, let's say an actor, we had a boxer on 2 weeks ago, and his environment was people that were throwing themselves at him and trying to give him alcohol and drugs, so I think it depends on when people come to a place in their life where they want to get sober, they also have to take a good look at who's around them and their environment and really what's going to serve them, because you have to clear out a lot of things when you get sober. Some people have to move. Some people have to switch careers. Some people have to have conversations, get divorced. There's a lot of different things that will help you with the fear. But when you were using using the drugs and alcohol, you were using it for a reason, because there were certain things that you were fearful of. So.
I don't know in other professions, but I know in the entertainment industry, so much of the fear, everybody deals with fear, even the non-alcoholics.
Right.
And
Everybody out there listening.
And so much
now.
of that fear is connected to attachment, which it is for other professions, I'm sure. But in even executive, talent, the people who put these things together, and
anybody,
they're sitting in their homes, let's say in Beverly Hills, and they're sitting there thinking, the decisions I make today, I've got 2 kids in Harvard, or I have 3 daughters, and they all have to pay for their weddings. The decisions I make today, are they going to be able to do that tomorrow? So they come in, they don't know. They try to do the best they can, and sometimes as an actor, you wind up getting disappointed by a choice, but the guy sometimes is making a choice because he's got these fears. It's a really great story. So when you've realized that, you can not be angry. You can say, hey, yeah, man, I don't know. What would I do if my monthly nut was $50,000? Right. What kind of, how would I would, it's so hard because you're attached. Mm-hmm. But, and there's a responsibility. But I remember Bill Hickey, who, is a lot of people wouldn't know him, but if they ever saw the movie Prizzi's Honor, he was
his famous character.
He was the one who said, "You want a cookie?"
Yeah.
Anyway,
he was also in the movie that I loved. He was in a movie called My Blue Heaven.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's in a lot of movies.
He was the guy with the voice.
Yes.
He worked at the hermit, at the animal store.
Yeah.
Bill's a wonderful.
Yeah.
He directed me in a play in New York, and that's how I met him. And he was wonderful, a wonderful guy. Anyway, and he guest starred on Crime Story, and it was scenes that I couldn't work with him. I was so, like I said,
resentments.
Right. Anyway, but the thing that was so cool about it was that one day we were rehearsing this 2-character play, and he says, "Listen," I said, "I gotta go. I gotta get a new agent. I'm gonna, and I'm thinking, you need to, you're Bill Hickey. Everybody knows you, character-wise." Yeah. And he goes, "I just gotta, things. I gotta step things up." He says, "So you and Ellie, the girl, and I were in the play. You rehearse, run your lines." He said, I should be back in about 4 hours. He goes, "If not, we'll just rehearse tomorrow." And I said, "Okay, Bill, break a leg, good luck." So he comes back in an hour. And he goes, "All right, let's rehearse." And I said, "What happened? Did you go see all your agents?" "Yeah, what happened? I went to the first one and I decided to sign with him." I said, "That's it? You didn't want to see the other guys?" And he goes, "Well, I was sitting in his office." He goes, and on his desk was a picture of a woman who's probably his wife and 4 beautiful daughters. Turned out to be his daughters. He said, and I said to him, "All those girls, your daughters?" And the guy says, "Yes." He goes, "All right, you're my agent." And he goes, "Why?" He goes, "Because they're all so pretty. They're going to get married. You got 4 weddings to pay for." He goes, "So you're not going to take
That's
me on
cute.
just
That's
for
an
the hell of
amazing
it."
That's
story.
really cute.
By the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Clean Radio. We're in the studio tonight with Tony Denison. One of the things I just wanted to talk about very quickly also tonight was about, and I had asked Erica, because this Adderall thing that's going on right now.
Well, you and I discussed
What
this.
the hell is Adderall, by the way?
Well, Judah and I discuss a lot of these topics, just in general. And Adderall really is
We're
a stimulant.
bored sometimes, so we're just like, hey, let's talk about Adderall today.
I've heard of it
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. No, it's a stimulant. It's a stimulant that is, well, it's medicinally prescribed to people that really can't concentrate and that need something to basically balance themselves out, and they're kind of more hyperactive. But really what's going on right now is that like the majority, I think I just read 2006, there's a study done where there's 25 million people that are taking it illegally, basically. So it's college students that are taking it to stay up all night and study for a test. Well,
sniffing it,
they're
taking
swallowing
breaking it up and
sniffing
it
it
like cocaine.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly.
And they've been giving it to kids in schools, just so you know, since they're 6 years old.
So this is for attention deficit disorder?
Was, yeah.
It was, yeah. And it was really like a
is.
big boom in the 90s, early 90s, late 80s. But really right now, we're just seeing a lot of people that are having a lot of health issues. And what's happening is people are going and having these seizures or psychosis. And it's pushing people, really. Your brain starts to, rewire in a different way. And so people that are prone to having bipolar disorder or any kind of like psychosis, it's pushing them to actually have it faster, and it's triggering it. It's almost like it's triggering if you had a cancer cell in your body. It's triggering that to happen. So a lot of people are winding up with a lot of, anxiety disorders, panic disorders, what we were talking about with this man.
But the ones who having this disorders, this disorders, they're taking it illegally, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
A lot of people, athletes recently, it's become a huge thing with NFL athletes taking it instead of steroids.
Yeah.
Because
the performance.
For performance-enhancing drugs, they're taking Adderall now. About 4 or 5 NFL players this year have been suspended.
Mm-hmm.
And they still have to take, the urine exams, right?
Yeah,
and
the crazy thing is that if they were actually, it's allowed in the NFL if a doctor says you could take it.
You have ADD.
You have ADD, but they're not even getting doctors prescribed. They're not even doing getting the doctor's note. Right.
Well, the danger in it is that there's been a lot of people that are having, like, people that are prone to heart abnormalities, people that are ready, when they take that, it's actually causing people to have heart attacks. And there's such an array of different things that are going on with it. But it's really an epidemic, I think.
I think that personally, they should be allowed to do as many drugs as they want, shoot heroin in their heads. I don't care. Just the Hall of Fame for every particular sport ought to close down now.
Yeah.
Because, so many of the
just
records...
so he played a coach on an NFL team on an ESPN show
just
called
cut into
Playmakers.
everybody after that. Break all the records you want. You're on steroids. You're on... Who if you're having fun watching the game, what difference does it make? Or put, make so many asterisks.
Just
this guy hit this many home runs, and he was juiced
it's
up.
funny, Tony, that the problem with that is, and I agree with you, the problem is these people don't care about that. That's not what's leading them to take these things.
But again, there is the fear and attachment. Yeah. These guys are sitting there, and they're thinking to themselves, if I can shoot a few extra baskets and not get tired because I don't care.
Right.
I remember there was a great interview with Mike Schmidt. Who
Hall of Fame baseball
player,
player,
Hall of Fame third baseman.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. He had like 500 and I don't know,
a lot of home runs,
50 something. Great ball player.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people didn't know. He was sort of flew below the radar, but anyway, he was on as a Roy Firestone, one of those shows, and they're talking to him about enhancing drugs, and he said, I was too afraid. He says, because I didn't want anything to interfere with my swing. He goes, I was afraid it might interfere with my swing. So he says, so I just did what I had to do.
Which is sort of what you were talking about before, which we missed. We got off that a little bit, which was a lot of people don't take drugs that could really potentially help them, antidepressants, because they're scared that it might affect them. It might have an adverse effect.
Well, also people that, people also that are creative, let's say that have certain disorders like bipolar, they like the mania because they like to be creative. They like to have the energy. They like to be inspired. They feel like they're inspired. So to take something to dull that and to basically, for that to disappear is very scary for them.
Well, there's also people like, I'm sure one of my favorite New York Yankee players, Mickey Mantle. This guy was in such horrific pain. There's no doubt that he was being shot up a lot of times.
Well, with vitamin B.
Vitamin B, cortisone. And if it helped him get through a game with a modicum amount, minimum amount of pain, well, that's somehow an enhancement thing.
But the difference is with the Adderall and things like that, it's it's actually people aren't present. So people aren't really focused on the sport so much as, like we were talking about before, like their exterior performance instead of really, I think, everything's mind, body, and spirit. So if you're mentally not there and you're on like some drug, like basically for people that understand, it's a stimulant, so like cocaine. If you're like that and you're nervous and your heart's pounding, you're not present, you're not calm, and you're not focused.
When you have anxiety, you're nowhere near focused.
Well, I want the guy, like if I was a ball player and I was at, then I was at the plate, I want the guy throwing the ball 95 miles, 100 miles an hour. I want him to be stone cold sober.
Right.
I don't want him to be taking anything.
Yeah.
Because you're throwing a weapon.
Right.
You're throwing a potential.
Well, that's another hazard.
Ending pitch.
But here's the thing that we're not realizing either. These drugs are very easily dispensed today.
Oh yeah.
You have tons of people that are writing prescriptions for these things, and people don't realize that. We have parents out there. By the way, if you just tuned in and you're listening to Clean Radio, we have parents driving right now. People driving that don't realize their medicine cabinets are the worst drug dealers right now. Their medicine cabinets are actually worse drug dealers than the drug dealers on the street.
Well, that's where the kids are getting them.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, when I was in college, there was this sort of like locust, like this blight came upon the land, and it was called
acid.
No, sulfurs.
Oh.
Not the sulfur. The
Quaaludes.
Quaaludes.
Yeah.
Quaaludes.
Yeah.
Sulfur was one of the brands, and this was like a blight across the land. I mean, it swept through America so intensely.
Yeah.
25 million. It was like maybe 75 million students were on this stuff that they stopped making it.
Yeah.
Because it had basically affected the progress of.
We had to learn about it when I went back to school for
Quaaludes.
Yeah, we had to learn about the Quaaludes.
It was
crazy.
they got now I heard, again, I don't know if this is factual, but
From Bob Sacamano?
Yeah, from Bob Sacamano, that that they may be reissuing them because they just figured, hey, you know what? Let's keep them stoned again. Who cares?
They have enough out there that'll keep people stoned.
But the reason I think it's so important to talk about this, about with the ADD medicine and all this stuff to the people, we'd like to think that everybody has our best interest in hand, that the doctor we're going to, that, it's okay to, check out more than one doctor. If you go to a doctor and the first thing he does is prescribe you a med, you might want a second opinion. Maybe. Just go and get a second opinion.
Right.
What else you got on that paper
Well,
that you
But
are
one thing
around?
about the Quaaludes, if they do have a comeback, since history always repeats itself, if they do bring them back again,
We're gonna party?
same thing's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to, and then suddenly they're going to say, okay, we got to get rid of
By
this
the way,
again.
just so you know, because, a good pal of, a friend of ours, Ben Stein, also wrote a book called Ludes, which was a bestseller, which was about Quaaludes. And one of the things that about everybody I've ever met when they talk about Quaaludes, they could be sober for 78 years. Their eyes light up.
I know.
It's the most fascinating thing I've never seen.
There's a lot of nostalgia
You never see
around
crackheads 30 years later. Their eyes light up. You can see their eyes light up, but their souls are closed. People that took Quaaludes. Tony's one of the most spiritual people I know, unless he's in road rage.
Getting excited over here.
Quaaludes. The funniest thing was a couple of years ago, Tony wanted to get a scooter, and we all had it, or it was something.
Motorcycle.
A motorcycle. We all had to talk him down and he finally said, "What's going to happen if somebody just hits it? If somebody pats it, or I'm going to go, no motorcycles." Yeah,
you and we have a good friend. Her name is Danielle, Danny, and so every time I would say, "I'm thinking about getting a motorcycle," the first word was no.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean no? No.
This was when
maybe I'll get a little 300 cc or 500, 200. No, just something that I can take. No. How about a Vespa? No.
Yeah, that's where the Vespa. You're right. Some people aren't. I was driving a scooter around Los Angeles.
Yeah, you were driving a
scooter.
Yeah, until I crashed it. But yes, I was my little zebra scooter. But we're running out of time, Tony. I really I want to get back.
That was
to
quick.
Yeah, it always goes by quick, and because we're here.
Jeez.
And we're present.
Yes.
I want to get back to this really quickly. We're talking about Adderall. We're talking about drugs out there. I think the biggest thing we're saying is knowledge.
It's knowledge. You guys, everybody that's listening out there right now, know your facts, and that's why Judah and I we're going to be bringing you some good facts in the future. But really, know the facts. Know what the side effects are. If you have a heart condition, if you have some other medical things going on with you, check what these drugs could do on top of that. And also don't mix things. I mean, people that are mixing alcohol with drugs, especially these kids at parties, there's so many fatalities these days, and the numbers are growing.
Don't prescribe yourself. You know, both of us knew somebody that was prescribing themselves.
They were diagnosing themselves?
They were prescribing themselves, but they were diagnosing themselves and prescribing themselves from somebody else.
Yeah.
You know,
and a lot of people do that.
A lot of people do that. A lot of people are going on Google, you know, they're going on, you know, WebMD.
Yeah.
You know, and I've noticed this, every affliction has almost all the same, you know, characteristics in many ways. You know, John Daly is a perfect example, famous golfer. If you look at all the symptoms, and he's been saying he has bipolar for years and he's not an alcoholic. I'm not judging, I don't know. But all his systems of shaking on the golf course and all that stuff was bipolar, was, you know, but please don't check out your systems on
and also don't believe everything you read on the internet.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. No, there's a commercial about that.
Oh, yeah, right.
No, it's true, because I have clients that come in and they say, oh, you know, I read that this is going to help me with my anxiety. And I said, who told you that?
Right.
You know, where'd you read that? I read it on the internet. And all of a sudden that becomes the truth. And so really try to seek out the most professional people in your communities. And also, like you said, shop around. You don't, I mean, for therapists, we've always talked about this on the show. You don't have to pick, you know, the therapist that's given to you. It's like, you know, you have to have a good match.
They just don't. Look,
doctors and therapists.
Treat your doctors and your sponsors and your priests
like
and your rabbis
date.
like one-night stands.
Or like you're dating.
But everybody sadly treats them like relationships, and the first person they meet, they're in love.
Right.
Okay? Start to treat those people like one-night stands, and maybe a relationship could come out of it.
That's
this
why,
is
you know,
Judah's big advice for tonight.
Yeah. Talking about words, I mean, one of the things I do, you know, is I don't ever, I mean, at least maybe once in a while I'll slip, use the word should.
Yeah.
I'll always say, you know what you could do?
Yeah.
You know, because could implies, well, there might be something you're not really sure about. Should implies, well, how come you didn't know? Or you didn't know this? What are you talking about? You should have known.
Right.
Okay, we're running out of time.
How am I supposed to know?
We're running out of time. I want to thank amazing actor Tony Denison.
You, Tony.
I want to thank all his fans for tuning in tonight. I want to thank everybody from Clean Radio that's tuning in tonight.
Thank
I want
you,
to
guys.
thank Erica.
Happy New Year.
Have a great
Fab
time.
Spiegelman. The show went really quickly tonight. We'll talk to you later.
Happy New Year, everybody.
At cleanradio.com.
Are you struggling with an addiction that's ruining your life? Want to have a confidential conversation with a professional that will immediately assist you? Do you suspect a loved one is abusing drugs and would like a free drug testing kit and consultation? KLEAN Treatment Center is standing by right now to help those with addictions and the people who care about them. Call 888-601-6040. That's 888-601-6040. Or go to KLEAN Treatment Center, that's clean with a K, cleantreatmentcenter.com.